Welcome to English Story Vault. Ready to upgrade your English skills? Here, we learn through stories told slowly, clearly, and with fun. So sit back, listen carefully, and enjoy the journey. An introduction. In September 2022, a young man named Captain Ibrahim Traoré became the leader of Burkina Faso. He was a captain in the National Army. Before him, another military leader was in charge. But Captain Traoré stepped in and took control. He claimed the previous leader had failed to stop the rising violence. Captain Traoré promised to bring peace and restore pride among the people. He was still in his early 30s, quite young for a national leader. After taking power, he began giving speeches filled with powerful messages. He talked about freeing Burkina Faso from foreign influence. He spoke of Africa shaping its own future. He backed his words with action, including ending old agreements with France, the country's former colonizer. Soon, people across many nations began to notice him. His face appeared in the news, and his speeches spread online. To many, he became a symbol of something new. Young people especially, in Burkina Faso and across Africa, saw him as a hero. They admired his message of independence and African pride. Some even compared him to past leaders who had fought against foreign control, but not everyone agreed. Some were uneasy about the way he took power. They wondered whether he could really lead the country effectively. Burkina Faso's problems, especially violence, were serious. People questioned if he could truly solve them. This story is about Captain Ibrahim Traoré, how he rose to power, what he did, why reactions to him were mixed, and how Burkina Faso changed under his leadership. It's his story, and the story of his nation. A new leader emerges. Captain Ibrahim Traoré spent his entire career as a soldier. He served in a highly trained Special Forces unit. Then, in September 2022, he led a major shift in the country's leadership. The leader before him, Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, had taken power just 9 months earlier. But Traoré and his fellow soldiers said they needed to act because the country was still unsafe. They believed the government had failed to stop armed groups causing chaos. On September 30th, 2022, they took control of the country. There was no major fighting. It was a peaceful takeover. Traoré declared that Colonel Damiba's government was over. He suspended the constitution for a time and formed a new ruling council. Then, in October 2022, he became the interim president, the temporary leader. He made strong promises to the people to restore safety and improve life for everyone. At that time, much of the country was out of government control. People were tired and desperate for change. Traoré said he would do what previous leaders couldn't. In his first speech, he urged citizens to work together to make the country safe and independent again. He replaced government ministers and reshaped the army's leadership. He also invited citizens to join the fight by volunteering for military support roles. This showed his belief in a people-powered defense. Traoré didn't wait to make bold changes. One of his first moves was ending the military agreement with France. Burkina Faso officially cut ties that allowed French troops to be based in the country. By early 2023, French soldiers had left. A formal event was held to mark the departure of the last French special forces in Ouagadougou, the capital. Traoré explained that Burkina Faso would now form partnerships that met its own needs. One major new partner was Russia. In 2024, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited Burkina Faso twice. Russia promised new weapons and training for the army, a major shift from France's past role. At the same time, Traoré's government turned its focus to the economy, especially the country's valuable natural resources. He said Burkina Faso's minerals, like gold, should benefit the people, not just foreign companies. A new government-owned mining company was created. Foreign mining companies now had to give 15% of their ownership to the state. They also had to train local workers and share technical knowledge. Some companies struggled with these changes. An Australian company, even, began legal action after losing its permit. The government also took control of 2 gold mines previously owned by a London-based firm. More national takeovers were being discussed. Traoré's government also ramped up citizen participation in national defense. A big volunteer program was launched, called the Volunteers for the Defense of the Fatherland. Thousands joined to help fight against armed threats. Traoré said it was every citizen's duty to defend the country and help bring peace. He spoke often of national pride and unity in this shared fight. Burkina Faso also formed new alliances. Along with Mali and Niger, it created a new group, the Alliance of Sahel States. This partnership aimed to handle regional security without relying on foreign powers. It was another step towards self-reliance and stronger regional cooperation. All of these actions marked a new chapter for Burkina Faso under Captain Ibrahim Traoré. A voice for Africa, after coming to power, Captain Traoré became more than just a national leader. He became a voice for the continent. He spoke with passion about his vision, an Africa free from outside control. This idea is known as anti-imperialism, pushing back against influence from richer, more powerful countries. He also believed deeply in Pan-Africanism, the idea that African nations should unite to shape a strong future. He looked up to past African leaders, especially Thomas Sankara, a former president of Burkina Faso who had once fought for similar ideals. Traoré followed in his footsteps. He gave bold speeches urging African countries to take control of their futures. That meant managing their own resources, making their own laws, and standing proudly on their own. This belief in national control is called sovereignty. Traoré's age made him stand out. Most African leaders are much older, but he was in his 30s. That mattered. Many young Africans saw him as one of their own, someone who understood their struggles. They felt inspired by his boldness and vision. They believed he could challenge the old ways and represent a future built by Africa itself. His energy and clear message connected with a generation frustrated by poverty, slow progress, and foreign influence. To them, he was a fresh voice with real purpose. Global media took notice. His face and message spread across TV, newspapers, and the internet. People across the world, not just in Africa, paid attention. Many believed Africa had long been treated unfairly by wealthier nations. Traoré gave words to those feelings. Online, he gained massive support. His photos, speeches, and quotes went viral. People shared his message again and again. He became a symbol of change, of hope, of African dignity. He wasn't just leading Burkina Faso anymore. He was speaking for a generation that wanted to see Africa rise, strong, proud, and free. 5. People in Burkina Faso today, have mixed feelings about their country. Some show strong support for Captain Traoré and the military government. They gather at large rallies, wave flags, and hold signs cheering for the new leadership. These gatherings reflect deep emotions, both frustration and hope. Life was extremely difficult before Traoré came to power in 2022. The country faced major challenges, especially with violence from armed groups. After years of insecurity and crisis, many citizens were exhausted and desperate for change. Captain Traoré brought new hope. Many believed he could improve safety and create better living conditions. People felt he understood their struggles and dreams for a brighter future. But despite this hope, daily life remains very hard. Violence has not stopped. In fact, in some areas, it has worsened since the new government took over. Safety is still a major concern. Millions have been forced to flee their homes due to fighting. These displaced people need food, shelter, and other basic support. Large parts of the country remain outside government control, making travel and daily life dangerous. And there are growing concerns about freedom of speech and human rights. Some people feel they cannot speak freely, especially if they criticize the government or military. Independent journalists have faced challenges in reporting. The government tries to control news and information to shape its image and limit opposing views. This makes it harder for citizens to access full, balanced information. So while many Burkinabe, especially the youth, support Traoré and hope for change, they also face difficult realities. The country is still struggling with violence and fear. At the same time, worries about personal freedoms remain. These mixed emotions, hope and hardship, define life for many people in Burkina Faso today. Support across Africa and the world, Captain. Traoré's message soon reached far beyond. Burkina Faso. People across Africa and around the world took notice of his bold speeches. Many who believe in Pan-Africanism were especially excited. This idea calls for African nations to unite and free themselves from outside control. Activists across the continent supported him. They saw him as a bold new leader, challenging old problems and foreign influence. One well-known supporter was Julius Malema from South Africa. He leads a political group called the Economic Freedom Fighters. Malema praised Traoré as a symbol of African pride and independence. He called him a courageous assertion of African dignity and the awakening of a generation. He said it was time for African countries to unite and rebuild. Even Africans living in places like Europe and the Americas showed support. In cities like London and New York, small groups held signs and gathered to back Captain Traoré. They believed he was standing up for Africa against exploitation and foreign control of its resources. Online, Traoré became even more popular. Social media users shared his photos, quotes, and artwork. He was often portrayed as a strong, heroic figure, sometimes even called the People's Captain or a Messiah. This digital support spread fast and wide. For many, it became a kind of online movement. People compared him to past African heroes like Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary leader from Burkina Faso, and Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. These men were known for standing up for African freedom and unity. Comparing Traoré to them showed just how much hope people placed in him. In cities like Dakar and Abidjan, billboards appeared with his image. Some included the words, "Africa for the Africans," a powerful call for Africans to control their own destiny and natural wealth. A Nigerian professor described Traoré's message as revolutionary. He said it speaks to young Africans who are tired of corruption and slow progress. This strong support from across Africa showed that Captain Traoré's ideas about independence, pride, and unity struck a deep chord, especially with the youth. Many saw him as a voice for their dreams, for a stronger, freer Africa. A changing world for Burkina Faso. Captain Traoré also helped shape new partnerships. Along with the leaders of Mali and Niger, he formed a group called the Alliance of Sahel States. The main goal? To fight violence in the region, without relying on countries like France or the US. It was a major shift. Burkina Faso also grew closer to Russia. Russia began sending weapons and helping train soldiers. Russian officials visited the country, and this new relationship caught global attention. Western countries, like the US, grew concerned about Russia gaining more influence in Africa. But for Burkina Faso, the focus was on finding new allies and solutions. Despite new partnerships, however, the country's biggest problem, violence, did not improve. In fact, reports say it got worse. Fighting groups gained more control. Some sources claim they now hold over 60% of Burkina Faso's land. Deaths from violence increased after Traoré took power. There were also serious human rights concerns. Some reports said the military and the groups helping them harmed civilians, especially from certain ethnic groups, like the Fulani. People who spoke out against the government faced pressure or threats. Free speech became harder. Journalists and critics reported restrictions and fear. Outside observers, including U.S. officials like General Michael Langley, questioned how the government was spending money from gold mining. They worried about corruption and lack of transparency. Groups like ECOWAS, a regional organization, asked for elections. They wanted Burkina Faso to return to civilian rule, but the government said it would wait 5 years before holding a vote. This meant Captain Traoré could stay in power longer and even run for president in the future. This decision brought more criticism from outside the country. So, even as Burkina Faso built new friendships and broke away from old ones, serious problems remained. Violence, questions about democracy, and concerns over human rights continued to trouble the nation. The future for Traoré, the future of Captain Ibrahim Traoré is full of both hope and uncertainty. Some citizens still believe he can bring real change. Others are more cautious, even afraid. Supporters of a strong, united Africa see him as a proud symbol of independence. Figures like Julius Malema say, Traoré proves Africa can lead itself, without outside control. Many young people across Africa agree. They view him as a fresh voice for their generation, but others are concerned. Security experts say the violence is still growing. Attacks haven't stopped. They also worry about rising government power and a decline in freedom of speech. Some reports warn of human rights abuses. Traoré speaks with passion. He calls for young leadership, national pride, and control over Africa's resources. That message inspires many. It gives people a sense of power after long years of struggle. His image is strong, but turning bold. Words into lasting change is a huge challenge. The problems Burkina Faso faces, like violence and poverty, are deep and complex. Real change won't come easily or quickly. Captain Traoré's leadership is an important moment, not just for Burkina Faso, but for Africa. His story is a test. Can a powerful message truly solve real-world problems? Or are the challenges too great, even for a bold new leader? The future is uncertain. There is still hope, but also many obstacles. Final message. So, what do you think will happen next for Captain Traoré and the people of Burkina Faso? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support really helps us make more great English learning videos for you. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Take care, and have a wonderful day.